Hey, what's going on, everyone? Donnie Boivin here, founder and CEO of Success Champions Networking. And today we are talking about why networking's not broken. It's usually how you're asking questions. When I started out in networking, let me tell you, I was the absolute worst. I didn't want to do traditional sales, so networking became my mode to try and figure out how to get business. And let me tell you, everything became kind of an act of desperation. Every conversation seemed like a sales call. And dude, everywhere I went, it was like I was playing this horrible game of business card collections. And let me be honest, it didn't work. And so I struggled very bad early on. And a lot of it was nobody was teaching networking properly. Nobody was, giving real advice. You heard all this stupid shit about go give to gain, and you heard, give and help all these other people. And what it all came down to was a lot of bad socializing, a lot of half-assed relationships, and no real ROI from the activity that and all the things I was doing out there. And what I figured out along the lines is the greatest skill that any person in business or sales can have is the ability to ask the right questions. And I think because people haven't actually been taught how to properly communicate with each other, and it gets worse and worse and more that we stay antisocial with all the online stuff. I read a great article the other day that said why building friendships and stuff was so much easier in the 80s. And growing up in the 80s, we had to go and do things to actually, yeah, do things together. So think about it, like, in the 80s, we legit had to uh pick up the phone and call somebody on a landline. There was no cell phones. And then we would have to get together, go meet at the mall, go to stand-up arcades to play games. There was a lot of social interaction. And in this day and age, there's not a lot of actual social interaction. So we continue to learn the art and skill of real conversations. So today, I'm going to walk you through. Here's how you learn how to question better. Here's how you have better conversation. And here's how you really open up dialogue between another person so you can get real ROI out of it. So, uh, the worst questions that people ask all the time when you're out networking is costing you a lot. So some of the bad questions you'll hear is the generic, "What do you do?" It ain't the worst question in the world, but it does not open a true dialogue. So when you ask, "What do you do?" it just leads people to kind of give you almost a one word, few word question because most people don't have any freaking clue how to explain what they do because they're in the same MO of when I explain what I do, hopefully somebody will say, "Oh my God, I've been looking for your services. Where have you been my entire life?" Another bad question is starting off is, who's your ideal client, right? Most people, they're as just as nervous about being out networking, about having conversation as you are. So they're really struggling to get all the words out of their head and actually articulate things properly to you. So, what are some good questions you could be asking? For me, I like to think about it in three core categories, if you will, of questions you should be asking people on a regular basis. They're journey questions, challenge questions, and future questions. And I'll start with the journey questions. The number one thing people want to do is talk about themselves. They want to open up and actually share their story, how they got somewhere. There's some people that are, they're like, I don't want to do that. I want the other person to do all the talking. But for the most part, people want to open up and share their story. So great journey questions. My favorite question of all time is a journey question is tell me your story. How did you get into insert their industry? So how did you get into selling IT? How did you get into telecom? How did you get into hosting lives? What actually is the story behind it? And when you ask this question, it really, a lot of times you'll see people pause, kind of do that look up and to the right, which is that deep thinking look that people get. And they're going to start thinking through specifically, what it took for them to get there. And you could tell some people have kind of this prepackaged answer because they've been asked it a lot of times. And in asking a lot of times, they've said it enough that it's a free flowing response. That's typically how I can handle it when somebody asks me the question. But when you ask somebody how they got into or how they started, into their industry, it makes for a lot deeper, a lot stronger conversation. Another great question on the journey side of thing is, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in business? Now, I will tell you, this one will give people pause because they don't usually think this way. But I love the answers I get back from this because it's a lot deeper, a lot more in depth. And when people have to think about what it is they've actually learned, you're going to learn some really good things, or you're going to hear things that you've learned as well, and you're like, oh dude, that was so I learned the exact same thing going through it. So it opens up this really, really kind of cool dialogue between the two individuals and allows for amazing things to happen. But my favorite one of all time is, how'd you get started in business, how'd you get into your industry? When you get to questions, you're really trying to uncover things and help them think through stuff. So, challenge questions are, often centered around what you do and can you offer and help and give them advice right now. So, some of my biggest challenge questions that I love to use is, what's the biggest bottleneck in your business? And I tell you, when you get people to actually think about their business, right? You're creating such more of a bonding moment that they're going to lean in. But I'll tell you, questions like this, oftentimes they haven't thought about this kind of stuff. So they're really going to have to go deep in the coffers and think through what is the current biggest bottleneck in their business. And I love when you ask a question that really gets them to challenge their current way of thinking, because once again, it's about the depth of the conversation and not this surface level stuff that we're always out there doing from a generic standpoint. Another fun one is, if you waved a magic wand and you could fix or be anywhere with your business, where would you be? And, people will tell you the craziest stuff here. But for me, what I'm uncovering is really, why are they in this game? What are they hoping to accomplish? Where are they trying to take their business and what they're doing? And when you can get people to really start thinking about the journey and where this journey is going to take them, you're going to be blown away, because they have to uncover something about themselves that is just magical in nature. So when you think of challenge questions, what you're thinking through is, how do I challenge the way they're currently thinking and get them to open up a more in-depth dialogue with me? Challenge questions are amazing. The third one is your future questions, and future questions are questions that really kind of uncover their goals and what they're trying to overall accomplish. So, future questions that I love is, what is one big goal you're chasing this year? Right. As we go into the fourth quarter, as we record this, that's something to think about, is, what's something you need to accomplish in the fourth quarter? What's something you need to accomplish next year? And for me, the future goals is the ability to uncover opportunities of things you can do for them. Can you introduce them to somebody that can help them to accomplish that goal? Can you get them, to someone that can help them solve a problem that's keeping them from getting that goal? It really opens up a lot of ways for you to get them connected to solutions that help them toward their goal. And another great question would be, what would success look like 12 months from now? And I think about it, as we just wrapped up the Badass Business Summit. If somebody says, what does success look like 12 months from now? I'm like, 300 people in, Dallas next year, filling up the event for the Badass Business Summit. And, that's the kind of cool things that I like to get people to think through. And remember, the conversation is about the depth of the conversation. It's about asking the right questions. So, one, you can learn more about them. Two, you can figure out, where they're struggling in business and how you might be able to help them. Or three, you're figuring out what they're trying to accomplish so you can connect them with people. And what I found is, the more that you're the person asking the questions, you're the one that gets the guide to conversation. And the guiding of the conversation has the power, because you're the one that gets to offer solutions. offer advice, open doors, get them connected to the right people, and you're going to be blown away by the dialogue and relationships you have. Because let's be honest, most people that are out there networking have this surface level conversations, these surface level relationships, and they don't have really in depth relationships. Like most times, I'm telling you, people they go out and network, and once they walk away from the networking, they're not interacting. They're not talking to these people because they're living two lives versus leaning all into the network and the things that they're doing. So really, if you think about networking and the things you're doing out in public, it's not so much that your networking sucks, it's you haven't learned to have the right questions, to have the right dialogues, and be able to give the right things to allow people to lean into you, to build and create these amazing relationships, these amazing conversations, and allow for opportunities to happen. And I know all this because I so early on was such a transactional guy, not only in how I sold, but in my relationships. I didn't want to see these people after work. I didn't want to, be around them. I wanted to go talk a little bit of business, get some business, and then go about my day because work Donnie and home Donnie were two different people. And I didn't want those people to meet, because I thought, especially back in the day, if people really understood and met who I was as a person, nobody would do business with me. So it's taken a lot of years to rewire and reprogram who I am, because I've had to do a lot of self discovery. I've really had to meet the dude in the mirror. And the more you learn about people, the more you pour into people, the more deeper the conversations go, the more deeper the relationships go, and the more opportunities actually happen because of how much you're leaning in and able to open doors and serve others. So, to wrap this one all up today, what I want you to think about is how deep of a conversation am I getting in with people? Is it surface level? Am I getting really curious? Am I actually asking questions that opens up real dialogue? And for a lot of you, this is going to be uncomfortable early on because you're not used to really in depth conversation. You're not used to having a back and forth dialogue. So go ask better questions, go, find better opportunities, and, kick a little ass and have a little fun. And if I can ever do anything to help y'all out, freaking feel free to reach out. I'm looking away because maybe I can cut and paste a few of these questions in here. I know it won't go to all, nope, too long. Nope, some of them will get up there, but there's a whole bunch of questions in chat for you to steal and use on your own. Guys, have an amazing week as always. I love you, mean it. See you, bye.